learn with joy.
Hi, hello champions. Good morning. In the last class, we have completed the material costing. In the today's class, we are going to start with the chapter called as the employee cost or labor costing. And normally, if you look at the study material, they are calling it as the employee cost and direct expenses. Before getting into the chapter, let us see what all the concepts that has been given in this chapter. Generally, I will be calling it as the overview of the chapter. If you look at the overview of the chapter, just we have only four concepts. Number one, valuation of employee cost. Number two, idle time and overtime accounting. Number three, incentive schemes, in which we are going to have two schemes, row one and halcyon scheme. At last, we are going to have the labor turnover ratios. These are the four concepts which we need to study in the chapter called the employee cost and direct expenses. Based on direct expenses, just we have only two questions, one in the illustrations and one more in the practical questions. Apart from that, remaining all the questions are based on the employee cost. Without wasting the time, let us start with the concept called as the valuation of the employee cost. Okay, now look at here. First, we need to understand what all the different elements that will be accounted as the employee cost. If you look at here, the definition given by the institute, what is the definition given by the institute means benefits paid or payable. Benefits paid or payable to the employees of an entity, whether they are permanent or temporary employees. So the second point is paid or payable to the permanent or temporary employees in the form of cash or kind. In the form of cash or kind. We are going to call it as the employee cost. So please understand. Okay, now what is employee cost means benefits paid or payable to the permanent or temporary employees in the form of cash or kind. We are going to account it as the employee cost. Now, employee cost includes what and all will comes under the employee cost means number one, wages and salaries. What all the wages and salaries that we paid that will form part of the employee cost. Second one, allowances and incentives. Third one, payment for overtime. Fourth one, employers contribution to provident fund and other welfare funds. Any other benefits in the form of leave with pay, subsidized food, leave travel concessions, etc. All these things form part of the employee cost. So what will be included in the employee cost means wages and salaries, allowances and incentives, and overtime wages, employer contribution to any of the benefit funds, and any other benefits will form part of the employee cost. When it comes to employee cost, we can classify into two types, that is direct employee cost and indirect employee cost. We already discussed this. What is direct labor cost means the wages paid to the workers who are directly engaged in the production. Wages paid to the worker who are directly engaged, or the employee cost which can be traced to the final product. When we are paying wages on hours basis, employer is spending 2 hours on the product. Let me take an example. To manufacture this product, employee is spending 2 hours. Each hour we are paying 8 rupees. 2 into 8, 16 rupees. That means employee cost can be traced to this product directly. That kind of expenses we are going to book it as the direct employee cost. Supervisor working in the factory, we cannot trace directly how much time spent on this one single product. We cannot trace. Can we say how many hours allocated from the supervisor to this product? No. Supervisor time, how much time allocated by the supervisor cannot be traced on this product. So supervisor salary, we are going to account it as the indirect labor cost. So please understand what is the direct labor cost means the one who is directly engaged in production, and the employee cost which can be traced to the final product is called direct labor cost. What is indirect labor cost means the employee cost which cannot be traced to the final product is called as indirect labor cost, which we already known to us. Now let us start with the how to evaluate the employee cost. How to evaluate the employee cost. Just for example sake, I'm saying I taken the format of the pay slip or wage slip. Okay. Now, so I took one wage slip format to understand the valuation of the employee cost. If you look at here, initially they had given all the details of the employee name, employee code, designation, PAN number, bank account details, how many days they're working, everything they had given on the top of the slip. After that, if you look at here, they're maintaining two columns. One is for income and one more is for the deductions. If you look at the incomes, they are getting different types of payments. In that first one is basic wages. And secondly, they are getting bonus, incentives, allowances, payment under welfare schemes. So first they are making total. Of everything. So please understand, they are making total of basic wages, bonus, incentives, allowances, payment under welfare schemes. So whatever the payment that they are getting on different names, they are making total of everything. After making the total, from that they are making certain deductions. What are the deductions means? Number one, provident fund. Please understand this. Please understand this properly. Contribution to the provident fund by employer. Sorry, by employee. There are two types of contribution towards the PF: employer contribution, employee contribution. So here what we need to understand is that this is the total earnings made by the employee. I can call it as total earnings. Total earnings made by employee. So if you look at here on different under the different names, he is getting the payments: basic wages, DNS allowances, incentives, leave travel allowances, everything in the form of allowances as well as in the form of basic wages and different forms. If you make a total of everything, we are going to call it as the total earnings. Total earnings belongs to the employee. From that earnings, I am going to make certain deductions according to statutory requirement. What the PF Act says, some amount has to be contributed by the employee and some amount has to be contributed by the employer. So the part of employee, contribution of employee will deduct from the total earnings. So we are deducting employees provident fund, employees ESI, employees PT, and tax that need to be paid by the employee. These all are the statutory deductions required. Other deductions, if any other like voluntary contribution to PF, contribution to benevolent fund, like this, if any advance payment given to the employee, all these things will be deducted. After that, we are going to get the net earnings. Let me take an example. This total comes to 1,20,000. 1,20,000, and statutory deductions is 30,000. Other deductions is somewhere around 10,000. Now the net earnings is 80,000. Are you understanding? So from the total earnings, exclude the statutory deductions and other deductions, will be getting net earnings. General will be calling it as the take home. The amount get credited to the bank of the employee is 80,000. But the gross earnings or total earnings is 1,20,000. I hope you are clear on this. I hope you understand the difference between total earnings or gross earnings and net earnings. Now you need to understand one more factor called as the CTC. Let us understand this. See here. There are three factors here. Number one, CTC. Number two, total earnings or gross earnings. Number three, net earnings or take home. As I told you, total earnings is sum of basic wages, DNS allowances, bonus, incentives, other allowances, all other allowances. From this, if you reduce statutory deductions and other deductions, will be getting net earnings. To this total earnings, if you add employer contribution employer contribution to benefit funds. Employer contribution to benefit funds. If you add employer contribution to benefit funds, we'll get CTC. As I took the example, 1,20,000 is the total earnings minus 40,000. We reduce the 40,000, we are getting net earnings 80,000. Now to this 1,20,000, let me take an example. This 40,000 includes employee contribution to PF and ESI. Employee contribution to PF and ESI is, just I am taking the example, 15,000. The equivalent amount has to contribute by the employer. The same amount has to contribute by the employer. Now what happens? 1,20,000 plus 15,000, 1,35,000 is the CTC. 1,35,000 is the CTC. Why I'm explaining in detail means because in examination sometimes they'll ask you to calculate employee cost of company. Employee cost of company. Then what we need to calculate is CTC. Employee cost is CTC. Sometimes they'll ask you earnings of the worker. Sometimes they'll ask you earnings of the worker. Then gross earnings. Sometimes they'll ask you, but normally they won't ask you net earnings. Either they'll ask you gross earnings or CTC. If they ask you gross earnings, if they are asking you total earnings of worker, then we need to calculate gross earnings by adding everything. If they ask you CTC, then add the employer's contribution to the PF and ESI to the gross earnings. I hope you understand. All of it clear? So first what you need to understand is gross earnings. From the gross earnings, if you exclude statutory deductions and other deductions, we'll be getting net earnings. To the gross earnings, if you add employer contribution to PF and ESI, we'll get CTC. You have to observe the question before start doing the solution. What is the requirement? In the question? That is very important. Clear? So this is about the employee cost. Now look at the questions. Let us do the questions based on the employee cost valuation. First one. X, an employee of ABC company, gets the following emoluments and benefits. Basic pay 10,000 per month. Dearness allowances 2,000 per month. Bonus 20% of salary and dearness allowances. Other allowances 2,500 per month. Employer's contribution to PF 10% of salary and DA. X work for 2,400 hours per annum, out of which 400 hours are non-productive and treated as the normal ideal time. We haven't discussed the ideal time. Normal ideal time treatment is similar to the normal loss which we discussed in the material costing. Normal ideal time treatment is similar to the normal loss as how we discussed in the material costing. Now, you are required to compute effective hourly cost of employee. Now tell me, are they asking employee cost or earnings? They are asking employee cost. Means we need to calculate CTC. Cost to the company. How to calculate CTC? Gross earnings plus employer contribution to PF and ESI. How to calculate gross earnings? Add basic pay, dearness allowances, bonus, other allowances, will get gross earnings. Plus employer contribution to PF will get CTC or employee cost. Now, one more point is, here they given hours, 2,400 hours. That is per annum or per month. That is per annum. They had given you per annum. So convert all this information to per annum. Are you understanding? All of you? Okay, now see here. Basic pay 10,000 per month into 12, 1,20,000. Dearness allowances 2,000 per month to 24,000. Bonus 2,400, 28,800 per annum. Employer contribution. See, and one more thing here, you need to understand these two things given directly. When it comes to bonus, they specify 20% of salary and DA. So how to calculate that? 20% of salary and DA, that is 12,000 into 20%, which comes to 2,400 into 12, 28,800. Employer contribution to PF is 10% of the salary and DA. So we have to take 12,000 into 10%, which comes to 1,200, 14,400. Other allowances given straight away, that is 2,500 into 12, 30,000. Total comes to 18,100 and per annum comes to 2,17,200. When it comes to hours, total hours is 2,400 hours minus ideal time, normal ideal time, minus normal ideal time. That is 400, which equals to 2,000 hours. They are asking per hour, hourly cost. They are asking hourly cost. So 2,17,200 divided by 2,000 hours, 108.60. This is the hourly rate. Have you understand this? All of you. So if you have the clarity between CTC and gross earnings, it is easy to solve the questions. Okay, now. So here they go the working. Fine. Look at the illustration 2. In a factory, working 6 days in a week and 8 hours each day, a worker is paid at the rate of 100 per day basic plus DA 120% of basic. He is allowed to take 30 minutes off during his hours shift for meals break and 10 minutes recess for rest. During a week, his card showed that his time was chargeable to job X 15 hours, job Y 12 hours, job Z 13 hours. The time not booked was wasted while waiting for a job. In cost accounting, state how would you allocate the wages of the workers for the week. So, to understand this question, we need to understand ideal time concept. So, I'll come back and do this question. First, let us complete the questions based on the employee cost. Okay, I'll do the question number 2 later. Look at the question number 3. This question is based on the employee costing only. Evaluation of employee cost. Let us complete this question. Calculate the earnings of A and B from the following particulars for a month. They are asking to calculate earnings of A and B. They are asking to calculate for a month and allocate the employee cost to each job XYZ. If you look at the question properly, there are two requirements in the question. What are the two requirements? Means number one, they are asking earnings of A and B. First, they are asking earnings of A and B for a month and allocate the employee cost. So in this question, we need to calculate both total earnings of worker A and B and employee cost of worker A and B, and employee cost should be allocated to job X, Y, Z. So three things are there. First, calculation of total earnings. Second, calculation of employee cost. Third, allocation to the job X, Y, Z. There are three requirements in the question. All of you clear about this? Now, look at the basic wages. How much it is? 10,000, 16,000. Dearness allowances given in terms of percentage. This percentage should be applied on the basic wages. Contribution to provident fund on basic wages, that is also on the basic wages. Percentage given, we will apply it on the basic wages. Contribution to employee state insurance, again on basic wages. Overtime hours worked for job, overtime hours worked by worker A. Overtime hours worked by worker A is 10 hours. Worker A is working overtime for 10 hours. B 0. Fine. The normal working hours for the month are 200. Overtime is paid at the double the total of normal wages and dearness allowances. So please understand this point properly. Normal working hours is 200. If there is any overtime, they are going to pay double the basic wages and dearness allowances. So overtime will be paid based on basic wages and dearness allowances. Normal wages is also called as basic wages. So basic wages, dearness allowances, on that they are going to pay the double. Okay, now employers' contribution to state insurance and provident fund are equal rates with the employee contribution. This point states that employer contribution is exactly equal to employee contribution. The two workers were employed in job X, Y, and Z in the following proportions. Look at here. When it comes to worker A, he is spending 40% of the time on X, 30% time on Y, 30% time on Z. When it comes to B, he is spending 50% time on X, 20% time on Y, and 30% time on Z. Now, overtime was done on job Y. So, when it comes to overtime hours, this is specifically worked on job Y. Overtime wages should be specifically allocated to job Y. Now, what we need to do, first we need to calculate total earnings. Let us discuss the total earnings, then we'll discuss the employee cost, then we'll discuss the allocation. Total earnings, as I told you, add basic wages plus DNS allowances. These are the only two things given. Normally, total earnings is basic wages plus all the allowances and overtime wages. We need to add the overtime wages also. Now, here basic wages plus DNS allowances. Let me write this here. Okay, let me explain the first. Basic wages plus DNS allowances. We know that DNS allowance is 50% of A wages, basic wages, and 50% of B basic wages. When it comes to overtime hours, 10 hours. Let me explain A first. Basic wages is 10,000. DNS allowance is 5,000. Totally 15,000. 15,000 divided by how many hours they'll work? 200. 15,000 divided by 200. You will be getting 75. You will be getting 75. They are going to pay. Okay. They are going to pay double the normal rate. Double the normal rate, that is 150 rupees. They are going to pay 150. 75 into 2, 150 rupees. Now, how to calculate overtime wages? 150 rupees into 10, which equals to 1,500. So the total earnings is 16,500 for worker A. Same way we calculate for the worker B. Okay, now look at here. 10,000, 5,000, 1,500. Total comes to 16,500. When it comes to worker B, that is 16,000, 50% of that is 8,000. It is 0, 24,000. This is the total earnings, gross wages earned or total earnings. All of you clear about this? Understanding? Okay, now. Okay. They're asking earnings. Yeah. For namesake, they're presenting net earnings also. How to calculate net earnings? Less contribution to PF. How to calculate PF? Look at here. 8% of the basic wages. 8% of the basic wages. 10,000 into 8%, 800. 16,000 into 8%, they are calculating here. 800, 1,280. This is at the rate of 8%. This is at the rate of 2%. 200, 320. So net earnings is 15,500, 22,400. All of you clear about this? Understanding? Okay. So this is the total earnings, and reduce PF and ESI will get the net earnings. Now we need to calculate CTC, employee cost. How to calculate employee cost? To the gross earnings, add employer contribution to PF, employer contribution to ESI. How much they are contributing? Equivalent amount of the employee contribution. So what we are going to take the gross earnings. What are the gross earnings? 15,000, 24,000. They are excluding overtime. They are excluding overtime wages because that overtime wages specifically belongs. That overtime wages specifically belong to job Y. They clearly stated in the question. Okay, now add employee contribution to PF 800, 1,280, 200, 320, 16,000, 25,600. Now normal working hours 200, 200. So 80, 128. So hourly rate. Employee cost per hour. Employee cost per hour is 80, 120. Here overtime wages is not included because that specifically belongs to job Y. That specifically belongs to job Y. Using this 80 and 128, we are going to allocate. We are going to allocate to the job X, Y, Z. Please understand, worker A, employee cost is 16,000. This 16,000 we are going to apportion in the proportion. We are going to apportion in the proportion of 40, 30, 30. That is 4 is to 3 is to 3. When it comes to 24,000. When it comes to 24,000, we are going. I'm extremely sorry. 24,000. It is the gross wages. Employee cost. When it comes to 25,600, we are going to apportion in the proportion of 5 is to 2 is to 3. Look at here. First, worker A, ordinary wages 16,000. We are apportioning in the proportion of 4 is to 3 is to 3. Overtime, I am keep telling from the beginning, it is specifically given to job Y. Next, worker B, 5 is to 2 is to 3, total amount is 25,600, we apportion. So, the total wage cost of job X is 19,200, job Y is 11,420, job Z is 12,480. I hope you all understand this question. You have understanding? Okay, now. So, here they given the 1,500 calculation, working note. Okay, now. Okay. These are the questions based on the employee cost. Now, let us start with the concept called as the ideal time and overtime. Let us start with the concept of ideal time and overtime. Let us understand the concept first. See here. First of all, ideal time. What is ideal time means? No production will be carried on. During that time, there will be no production, but wages will be paid to the worker. Such hours is called as the ideal time hours. No production is carried on, but wages will be paid to the time. Wages will be paid to such hours. Such hours is called as the ideal time hours. Now, look at here. Okay, now, in other words, it is the difference between time paid and time booked. Here we need to understand one thing. There are two things: hours paid and hours worked. There are two things: hours paid and hours worked. Let me take an example. Hours paid is 100 hours, whereas hours worked is 80 hours. Actually working for 80 hours, but getting the payment for 100 hours. The difference is 20 hours. This is called as the ideal time. This is called as the ideal time. When it comes to ideal time, it can be normal, abnormal. What is normal? Expected. Expected ideal time. What is abnormal? Unexpected. Unexpected ideal time. Are you understanding? Okay, now let us understand the normal ideal time. It is the time which cannot be avoided or reduced. It is the time which cannot be avoided or reduced in the normal course of business. When it comes to causes of normal ideal time, look at the causes of normal ideal time. The time lost from the time lost between from the factory gate to work location. Generally, in case of manufacturing companies, whenever the workers enter into the factory, they need to get the attendance through the thumb impression. Once the thumb impression is given, the time will start. But to reach the work location, it may take 10 to 50 minutes time, because the distance between the factory gate to work location will be somewhere around 4 to 5 kilometers. To travel that 4 to 5 kilometers, they'll take 10 to 50 minutes time. That 50 minutes time lost cannot be reduced, cannot be avoided. What is normal ideal time is which cannot be avoided, and it is expected. Are you understanding? Okay, now. So the time loss between the factory gate to work location is one of the example for the normal ideal time. And second example, interval between one job to another job. One job the worker is working, the job get completed. To start with the another job, there will be some time waste there, because whatever the job get completed, they need to remove it out. They need to remove it out, and they need to make the machinery ready for the next job. There will be some time waste. That is also normal idle time which cannot be avoided. Third one, setting up time of the mission. That's what I told you. When they want to change the job, there will be some settings to be changes in the some of the settings to be changed in the mission. That is also one of the normal idle time. And one more thing, rest time, break for lunch. All these things will be considered as the normal idle time. How to treat that in the books of accounts means treatment. Now let us discuss about the treatment. First we discuss the causes. Now we are going to discuss the treatment of the normal idle time. How to treat that? The normal idle time cost will be added to the good hours. Normal idle time cost will be added to the good hours. Let me take an example. Hours paid equal to 100, hourly rate equal to 10. Total wages equal to 100 into 10, which comes to rupees 1000. Now, out of this hours paid of 100, normal ideal time equal to 20. Now, what happens? Hours worked equal to 80. While calculating hourly rate, total earnings is 1000 divided by 100 minus 20. As how we'll calculate cost per unit in case of material. Total cost minus normal loss scrap income divided by total unit minus normal loss units. Same way here, total labor cost. There is no scrap income. So total labor cost divided by total hours minus normal idle time. That is 1000 divided by 100 minus 20, which equals to 1000 divided by 80. We will get the hourly rate. What we are doing, the normal ideal time cost, we are adding to the good hours. We are enhancing the hourly rate of the good hours. Okay, now normal idle time will be treated as cost of production. The direct workers normal idle time is considered while calculating the standard labor rate. When it comes to direct worker, we will consider while calculating the standard labor rate. When it is indirect labor, we are going to consider while arriving at the absorption rate or overhead rate. Direct workers, direct hourly rate, indirect workers, overhead rate. All of you clear about this? Understanding? Okay, that is about the normal ideal time. Abnormal ideal time, there are multiple reasons. Abnormal ideal time is unexpected, power failure, machine breakdown, floods. All these things are the examples to the abnormal ideal time. That abnormal ideal time will be evaluated separately and will transfer to the P&L account. This treatment is similar to abnormal loss in case of material costing. Look at here, power failure, breakdown, lockdown, lack of coordination between employees, non-availability of raw materials, strikes, lockouts, poor supervision, fire, floods, etc. What the treatment means? Cost related to abnormal idle time will be transferred to costing P&L account. Okay, this is about normal idle time and abnormal idle time. Very simple. Normal idle time will be enhanced to the labor hour rate. Abnormal idle time will be transferred to the P&L account. Clear on this? Okay, now let us discuss the overtime. What is overtime? Worker working beyond normal working hours. Let me take an example. The company policy is to work Monday to Saturday in a day 10 to 6, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. In terms of days, Monday to Saturday in a week. In terms of hours, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is the normal working time. If any workers work beyond normal working time, we are going to take it as the overtime. Are you understanding? So please understand here. That is one. See, work done beyond normal working hours. Work done beyond normal working hours is known as overtime work. If there is no such specification, in the company, labor policy is not there, or labor time policy is not there, then we are going to take the help of the Factories Act. 1948. In Factories Act 1948, they have stated two conditions to decide the overtime. What are the two conditions? Means number one, in a day greater than or equal to 9 hours. In a week greater than 9 hours. I'm sorry, not equal to. There's a mistake. Okay. Greater than 9 hours, greater than 48 hours. This is daily condition, this is weekly condition. In a day working more than 9 hours, in a week working more than 48 hours will be considered as the overtime. That is according to Factories Act 1948. All of you clear about this? Now, when it comes to overtime, what we need to account is that overtime premium. So we have to focus more on the overtime premium, because whenever the worker works for overtime, he will be expecting some extra payment. Which is called as overtime premium. Now the discussion is how to account the overtime premium. Let me explain this with one example. Look at here. Hours paid equal to 120 hours. Each hour, let me take an example. Hourly rate equal to rupees 10. Hourly rate equal to rupees 10. Total wages to be paid equal to 120 hours into 10 rupees, rupees 1200 hours. Sorry, rupees 1200. Rupees 1200. Now the point is, this 120 include two things: normal time, overtime. Normal time is 100, overtime is 20. Normal time is 100, overtime is 20. Now the point is 120 will be paid at normal hourly rate. We have to pay at normal hourly rate. Now, when it come to overtime, they will be expecting double the payment of this. They will be expecting double the payment of this, which is 20. Normal hourly rate is 10. Overtime hourly rate is 20. This includes two things now. Normal hourly rate of 10 rupees, premium of 10 rupees. Normal hourly rate of 10 rupees, premium of 10 rupees. We already calculated total wage is 1200 together for the normal time and overtime. So there is no doubt about the normal time hourly rate accounting. Normal hourly rate will be always accounted as the wages. Will always accounted as the wages. Now the biggest question mark is how to account this premium. The biggest question mark is how to account the premium. How much is the premium? 20 hours into 10 rupees, which equals to rupees 200. Now this is called as the overtime premium. This is called as the overtime premium. Now the discussion is how to account this overtime premium. The accounting of overtime premium depends upon reason why there is a overtime. Why the employees are working for the overtime? Due to what reason? Due to what reason they are working for the overtime? That is important. Let us see that. See here. Look at here. Overtime payment. It is the amount of wages paid for working beyond normal working hours. Overtime payment. Wages paid for overtime at normal rate plus premium, extra payment for the overtime work. Here the discussion is about overtime premium. No problem. I mean, there is no discussion for the normal hourly rate. It will be accounted as the wages. Now the discussion is how to account the overtime premium. Under what head? Under what head we need to account the overtime premium? It depends upon reason why there is a overtime. Okay, now see here. The rate for overtime work is higher than the normal hourly rate. Overtime hourly rate will be greater than the normal hourly rate. In our example, normal hourly rate is 10 rupees, overtime hourly rate is 20 rupees. Double that. I took double that. Okay, now. Usually it is double the normal rates. That's what I told you. Usually it will be overtime hourly rate will be double the normal hourly rate. Usually. Okay, now. The extra amount so paid over normal rate is called overtime premium. Causes of overtime and treatment of overtime premium. Look at here. We are going to see causes of overtime and treatment of overtime premium. When it comes to first cause, at the request of customer. Let us understand this. The first cause for the overtime is at the request of customer. Let me take an example. I am having the manufacturing company. I am getting one order from the customer. The total time required to deliver the job is, let me take an example, 10 days. Customer is requesting me to deliver within 6 days. Please understand the scenario. One of the customer is approaching me for the delivery of the job. The total time required according to me, if the workers work for normal time, the total days required is 10 days. But he is forcing me to deliver within 6 days. That means if I want to do the job of 10 days in 6 days, the workers has to work for overtime. Without working overtime, how can I deliver within 6 days? Now, the workers are working for overtime due to what reason? At the request of the customer. Now, what I need to do for the overtime, being an employer, being an entrepreneur, I have to pay the premium. That is my cost. Who should bear that cost? You tell me in this scenario, who should bear that cost? Definitely the customer. The client has to bear the cost. Why will I bear? At the request of customer only, we are working for overtime. For the overtime, we are paying the premium. So the premium cost has to bear by the customer. So charge to the respective job. If I am doing job A means I am going to charge it to the job A. I hope you understand this point. Next, as a regular feature, there are certain companies where there will be a labor shortage. There are certain companies where there is a labor shortage. When there is a labor shortage, all the time they have to work for overtime. Especially this scenario will observe in the audit offices. The work has to done by 10 people, will make the people to do by 8. The work will belong to 10 people, but they'll force to do it by 8 people. There is a shortage of 2 people all the time. So every day they have to work for overtime. In this scenario, instead of accounting overtime and normal time separately, it's better to revise. It's better to revise the hourly rate. How to revise hourly rate? Look at here. Let me take our example only. Here, out of 120, 100 is normal time, 20 is overtime, 100 will be paid at 10 rupees, 20 will be paid at 20 rupees. Total comes to 1000, here it comes to 400. Totally 1400. Total amount is 1400. Hours worked is 120 hours. (1400) divided by 120 equal to 11.67. 11.67. Instead of taking 10 rupees, we are going to take the 11.67. That means I am revising the labor hour rate itself. Are you understanding? Okay, now. Next, third scenario, abnormal reasons. What is the abnormal reasons? Mission breakdown, power failure, floods. So what we need to do? We need to charge it to the P&L account. Next, due to exigencies and urgencies, nothing but irregular production. Irregular production. Urgencies and exigencies. Simply I can tell you seasonal demands. There are certain products which will be having seasonal demands. In such scenario, whatever the cost incurred as a premium, that will be charged to the customer only. To charge it to customer, we are going to treat it as the factory overheads. Please understand, due to seasonal demand, they are working for overtime. That has to be collected from the customer. How to collect it from customer means by treating it as factory overhead. All of you clear about this? These are the 4 scenarios. So before accounting the overtime premium, we have to see due to what reason there is a overtime working. If it is at the request of the customer, charge it to the respective job. If it is as a regular feature, revise the labor hour rate. If it is of the abnormal reasons, charge it to the P&L account. If it is of the seasonal demand, if it is due to urgencies and exigencies, then treat it as the factory overhead. All of you clear about this? Understanding? Okay, this is about normal idle time, abnormal idle time and overtime premium accounting. Simply I can tell you normal time and overtime. Let us solve the questions based on this. Look at the question number 2. Yeah. Let us understand this question. See here. The normally paid at 100 rupees per day, basic DA is 120% plus DA. So 100 plus 120% is 120, which equals to 220 per day. 220 per day. He is allowed to take 30 minutes off during his hour shift for meals break and 10 minutes for recess for rest. Now let us understand this point. They are allowing 30 minutes for the meals break, 10 minutes for the rest. Now tell me, this is normal idle time or abnormal idle time? Resting time and lunch break is a normal which cannot be avoided. Can we avoid the lunch break? Can we avoid the recess time? No. So in a day, 40 minutes. In a day, 40 minutes. If you look at the question, totally they are working for 6 days. 40 minutes into 6 days, you will be getting 240 minutes divided by 60 minutes, we will be getting 4 hours. So 4 hours is normal idle time. In this question, 4 hours is normal idle time. Totally how many hours? 6 days into 8 hours. Total hours paid equal to 48 hours. Total hours paid is 48. Normal idle time is 4 hours. Clear now? And when it comes to the job card, when it comes to his card, when it comes to the worker's card, he booked that on job X, he worked for 15 hours. On job Y, he worked for 12 hours. On job Z, he worked for 13 hours. Totally hours booked is 40 hours. Total hours booked is 40 hours. So what I can say, out of this hours paid, I will classify into hours worked as 40, normal ideal time as 4. Look at here. The time not booked was wasted while waiting for a job. Please understand this wording, waiting for a job, changing of the job. Changing of the job is different from the waiting of the job. Changing of the job is we are working on job A and we are changing it to job B. Waiting of the job A is completed, but job is not yet allocated. When the job is not yet allocated, whose mistake is that? Management mistakes. Can we avoid that? 100% we can avoid that. What is this? Abnormal idle time. If you are able to avoid, it is abnormal idle time. Are you understanding? So, what they mean to say, the time not booked was wasted while waiting for job. In cost accounting, state the allocation of wages to the worker for the week. So, whatever the time not booked is abnormal idle time. How many hours? 4 hours. So, what I mean to say, hours worked is 40, normal idle time is 4, abnormal idle time is 4. Now, what we are going to do? Let us see the total earnings. 220 per day into 6 days. 220 per day into 6 days. How much we'll get? Look at here. 1320. 1320. As I told you, hourly rate equal to total labor cost divided by total hours paid minus normal idle time. Total hours paid minus normal idle time. Normal idle time cost will be loaded to the good hours. Okay, now which equals to 1320 divided by hours paid is 48 minus normal idle time is 4, which equals to 1320 divided by 44, which comes to rupees 30. Look at here, rupees 30. Are you understanding, all of you? Now, using this 30 rupees, we are going to charge it to job X, job Y, job Z, and we'll transfer to the P&L account of the 4 hours. We'll transfer to the P&L account of the 4 hours. Look at the accounting here. Job allocated to job X 15 into 30, job Y 12 into 30, job Z 13 into 30. When it comes to charging to P&L account, 4 into 30. So 120. Total amount accounted is 1320. All of you clear about this? Understanding? Okay, now look into the question number 4. Yeah. Hmm. It is seen from the job card for repairs of the customer's equipment that a total of 154 labor hours have been put in as detailed below. So totally 154 hours they are working. See, worker A. When it comes to worker A, paid 200 per day of 8 hours. Monday he is working for 10.5 hours. Tuesday 8 hours. Wednesday 10.5. Thursday 9.5. Friday 10.5. Totally he is working for 49 hours. Worker B, he is working for 48 hours. He is getting here he is getting 200. Here he is getting 100. Here he is getting 300. Worker C is working for 57. If you make a total of this, totally they are working for 154 hours. That is what they stated in the question. Customer, see, it is seen from the job card for repair of customer equipment the total 154 labor hours has been put in as detailed below. When it comes to the repair of the job, 3 workers are working, worker A, worker B, worker C, together comes to 154 hours. All of you clear? Next. In terms of an award, in employee conciliation, the workers are to be paid dearness allowances on the basis of cost of living index figures relating to each month, which work out to 968 rupees for the relevant month. So whatever the monthly details given in the question, for that month, how much is the dearness allowances means 968. The dearness allowances is payable to all workers irrespective of the wage rate. The first condition is dearness allowances will be paid irrespective of the wage rate. Why they mention this point means if you look at worker A, he is getting 200 divided by 8 hours. 200 divided by 8 hours. he is getting 25 rupees. When it comes to here 100 divided by 8 hours, he is getting 12.5. 300 divided by 8 hours, 37.5. So each worker is getting different hourly rates. For getting DNS allowance, we are going to pay. When it comes to DNS allowance, we are going to pay irrespective of the wage rate. That is the first point. Second point, if they are present or on leave, they may present or they are on leave, we are going to make the payment of the DNS allowances. Okay, now each worker has to work for 8 hours on weekdays. Okay, each worker, this is the labor policy. This is the labor policy. Each worker has to work for 8 hours in a weekdays. Saturdays and Sundays will be weekly holiday. However, worker may work on Saturdays due to exigency of work for 4 hours. Though full payment of 8 hours will be made with no other payments. So please understand. Look at here. What the wording they given? Workers should work for 8 hours in a 8 hours in a weekdays. When it come to Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. Now look at this. Let us understand the labor policy. Each worker will be paid for 8 hours on weekdays. When it comes to Saturdays and Sundays, it will be holiday. If anyone works on Saturday, if they work for 4 hours, they'll be getting payment for the 8 hours with no other payments. I'll explain the meaning of that later. What you need to understand is Monday to Friday they have to work for 8 hours. Saturday, Sunday is holiday. If anyone works on Saturday for 4 hours, he will get the full payment for 8 hours. Clear? Next. Overtime is paid twice of ordinary wage rate. Overtime is paid twice of ordinary wage rate if worker work more than 9 hours in a day. Excluding holidays, the total number of hours worked. Sorry. So the point is, when it comes to what will be considered as overtime, working beyond 9 hours. Working beyond 9 hours will be considered as the overtime. When it comes to overtime, it is double the normal hourly rate. These are the 2 points mentioned. Now, excluding holidays, total number of hours work out to 176 in the relevant month. Total number of hours work out to 176 in the relevant month. Okay, now. The company's contribution to Provident Fund, employee state insurance premium are absorbed into the overheads. Calculate the wages payable to each worker. Okay, now what they are asking is wages payable to each worker. Now how to do that means we are going to calculate hours into hourly rate. We need to calculate two things. Hours. Why I am telling hours means we need to know how much is the normal hours and how much is the overtime hours. When it comes to hourly rate, we need to calculate normal hourly rate, overtime hourly rate. So there are two things, there are two requirements. Okay, now there are two requirements in the question. There is some technical issue. Okay, please tolerate this. Okay. Let us start solution to this question. One point which we need to keep in mind is to decide the overtime. It should be greater than 9 hours in a day. When the worker is working more than 9 hours in a day, that will be considered as the overtime. Remaining thing will be considered as the normal time. That is point number 1. Point number 2, we need to calculate normal hourly rate as well as overtime hourly rate. As condition given in the question, overtime hourly rate is double the normal hourly rate. So first we'll calculate normal hourly rate and we'll multiply with 2. We'll get overtime hourly rate. When it comes to normal hourly rate, we need to consider two things: basic wage rate and dearness allowances. Okay, now let us discuss first normal time and overtime. Look at here. When it comes to worker A, And one more thing, I want to make one small change when you are writing the solution also. Don't have any extra hours. Don't have in the working any extra hours. Just write it as a normal hours. Instead of taking here, directly you take it here as a 9, 9, 9, 9. Unnecessarily they created confusion by having the extra hours column. Are you understanding? Okay now. So here normal hours 9, overtime hours 1.5. How? Total it is 10.5. Total it is 10.5. Look at the question. Look at the question. Total it is 10. Okay, let me discuss here only. Total time is 10.5. 9 hours is the normal time. 1.5 hours is the overtime. 8. There is no overtime. 0. Here it is 1.5 hours. Here it is 0.5 hours. Here it is 1.5 hours. Are you understanding? So, if you make a classification, let me write here normal time. Normal time is 9, 8, 9, 9, 9. So, normal time is 9 4s are 36, 36 plus 8, 44. Overtime is 5. So, normal time is 44 hours. Overtime is 5 hours. All of you clear about this? Next. When it comes to here, normal time 8, overtime 0, 8, 0, 8, 0, 8, 0, 8, 0 and 8, 0. Totally 48 is the normal time, overtime is 0. Okay, now let me take worker C. Normal time is 9 hours, overtime is 1.5, 8, 0, 9, 1.5, 9, 0.5, 9, 1.5 and when it comes to here 8, 0. Okay, now if you make a total, one more thing, when it comes to last day, that is Saturday, totally he is working for 8 hours. Actually he is working for 4 hours. Actually he is working for 4 hours, but he is getting the payment for the 8 hours. That 4 hours is not overtime. Please understand. On Saturday, I am speaking about worker C. On Saturday, he is working for 8 hours. Sorry, he is working for 4 hours. Even worker B, both are working for 4 hours, but getting payment for the 8 hours. That extra 4 hours payment, what they are getting is a incentive kind of thing or bonus kind of thing, but it is not the overtime. What is overtime? Working beyond 9 hours in a day. That will be considered as the overtime. But here there is no overtime. It is the extra compensation given to the worker. That extra compensation will be given at normal hourly rate. That extra compensation will be given at normal hourly rate, not at the overtime. Okay, now look at here. Overtime here is 5 hours. Normal hours 48 plus 4, 52. Totally comes to 57. Okay, now look at here. Okay, now here what they done, they did the same thing. As I told you, 40 plus 4, totally 44 plus 5, 49 hours. Here it is 48. Here it is 57. Okay. And one more thing, what they did is, over time, they are going to get double the rate. Over time, they are going to get double the rate. So 1.5 into 2, 3 hours. Totally, it comes to 12. How it is 12? 9 plus 3, 12. 9 plus 3, 12. 8 plus 0, 8. 9 plus 3, 12. Everything they are taken double. Everything they are taken double because they are going to get double the payment. Are you understanding? Next, 9 plus 1, 10. 9 plus 3, 12. Here it is 0. When it comes to here, there is no overtime. Total it is 48. When it comes to here, overtime they taken double. And here the total time is 9 plus 3, 12. 8 plus 0, 8. 9 plus 3, 12. 9 plus C, sum of these two. 9 in the sense, sum of these two. Okay. As I told you, we can write in the same column. Okay. 9 plus 3, 12. Here, 8 plus 0, 8. They are not going to get the overtime. See, normally people will get confused. So that 4 hours is overtime. That is not overtime. That is the extra compensation given due to working on Saturdays. Are you understanding? That is not overtime. Overtime is more than 9 hours in a day. On Saturday, are they working more than 9 hours? No. Then how can we consider it as the overtime? Are you understanding? So there is an extra compensation given. That compensation will be given at normal hourly rate. So 8 plus 0, 8 hours. Total it comes to 62. Now here they given note. Worker C will be paid for equivalent 8 hours, though 4 hours of working is required in Saturday. On Saturday, though he is working for 4 hours, we are making payment for the 8 hours. And they given further, no overtime will be paid for working beyond 4 hours since it is paid for working beyond 9 hours. Overtime will be considered when the worker is working beyond 9 hours. Just because of working 4 hours, we are not going to take it as overtime. I hope everyone clear on this. Many people confused with the Saturday working of the B and C, where they are working for 4 hours, getting payment for 8 hours. That extra 4 hours is not a overtime, that is normal time. I can call it as extra compensation given due to working on Saturday. That is not the overtime. I'll have to clear about this. Okay, now look at here, wages payable. Basic wage rate I already told you 25, that is 200 divided by 8, 100 divided by 8, 300 divided by 8. We'll get 12.5, 37.5. When it comes to DNS allowances, how they are getting 5.5 means total DNS allowance is 968 rupees and we have to pay it for 176. 154 is the hours worked. 154 is the hours worked. They clearly mentioned DNS allowance will be paid. DNS allowance will be paid for irrespective of the wage rate and including the leaves. So including the leaves, total it is 176. So that I am taking 176 but not the 154. So 968 divided by 176, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Together comes to 30.5, 18, 43. That is the wage rate. Normal hours is 54, 48, 62. Total wages payable. See, this 54, 48, 62 includes overtime hours also. But we taken double because they are going to get the double the payment. For overtime, we taken double because they'll get the double payment, which is called an equivalent hours. We can call it as equivalent hours also. So that is 54, 48, 62 total payment they given. All of you clear about this? Understanding? Okay, now let us look at the question number 5. Very simple question. It is the question based on the overtime again. Let us solve this question. Look at this. In a factory, the basic wage rate is 100 rupees per hour and overtime rates are as follows. Before and after normal working hours, it is 175% of basic wage rate. When it comes to normal hours, it is 1000 hours. Overtime before and after working hours, 100 hours. Sundays and holidays, 25 hours. Totally 1125 hours. I think some printing mistake is there. It should come here. Okay. Now, during the previous year, the following hours were worked. Normal time 1 lakh hours. Overtime before and after working 20,000 hours. Overtime on Sundays and holidays 5,000 hours. Totally 1,25,000 hours. The following hours have been worked on job jet. This entire information, this table should come down here. Okay, first of all, let me clarify this. This is during the previous year. This is the hours worked during the previous year. This is the hours worked on job jet. One specific job. One specific job. So this is the total hours. This is the respective job hours. This is the respective job hours. Okay. Okay. So total hours is 1 lakh hours of normal time. Overtime before and after working hours 20,000 hours. Overtime on Sundays and holidays 5,000 hours. First, what we need to understand in this question is when it comes to overtime, there are two types of overtime. Overtime working before and after working hours. Second, overtime working on the Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, Sundays and holidays. I'm sorry. Overtime working on before and after working time, and overtime working on Sundays and holidays. When it comes to normal hourly rate, it is 100 rupees. The normal hourly rate is 100 rupees. If the overtime is working before and after normal working hours, it is 175% of basic wage rate. So 100 rupees into 175%, which comes to 175 rupees. When the overtime is working on Sundays and holidays, it is 225% of basic wage rate. 100 into 225%, which equals to 225 rupees. Now let me clarify this. This 175 rupees include two things: normal hourly rate of 100 rupees and overtime premium of 75 rupees. When it comes to 225, let me write here only. When it comes to 225, two categories: normal hourly rate of 100 rupees, overtime premium of 125 rupees. So this is about the hourly rates. There are three hourly rates: normal hourly rate, overtime hourly rate, working before and after working hours, overtime hourly rate, working on Sundays and holidays. When it comes to normal hourly rate, 100 rupees, overtime hourly rate on before and after working hours, 175, overtime hourly rate, Sundays and holidays, 225 rupees. Clear on this now? When it comes to hours, they given total and specific hours worked on job Z. This is the information given in the question. Let us look into the requirements. What is the requirement? You are required to calculate the labor cost chargeable to job Z and overheads in each of the following instances. Ultimately, they are asking how much is the labor cost charged to job Z. Now look at there, they give some instances. First one, where overtime is worked regularly throughout the year as a policy due to worker shortage. I already discussed this. When the overtime is working because of labor shortage, we are going to revise. We are going to revise the labor hourly rate. We are going to revise the labor hourly rate. How to do that means, look at here. Total hours worked. Let me take this. Total hours worked is during normal time 1 lakh. Each hour will be paid at the rate of 100. Overtime before and after working hours 20,000. Each hour will be paid at 175. Overtime on Sundays and holidays, each hour will be paid at 225. We already discussed this. If you make a total, we'll get the total wages divided by number of hours. Totally how many hours? 1,25,000 hours. We'll be getting revised labor hourly rate. Using that, we are going to charge it to the job Z. On job Z, how many hours we are working? 1,125 hours. All the hours will be paid at the rate of the revised labor hourly rate. Okay, now look at here. First, they given the hourly rates: 100 rupees, 175 rupees, 225, which we already discussed. Now they are calculating wages. Total wages 1 crore 46 lakh 25,000 divided by 1 lakh 25,000 will be getting 117. On job Z, totally how many hours they are working? 1,125 hours will be paid at 117. Total wage cost accounted. Total wage cost accounted to job Z 1,31,625. That is the first instance. Second instance, when the overtime is worked irregularly to meet the requirement of the production. If it is irregularly, that premium amount, I am speaking about the overtime premium. In case of first scenario, before and after working hours, 75 rupees is the premium. On Sundays and holidays working, 125 rupees is the premium. That premium amount will be accounted to factory overheads. That premium amount will be accounted to factory overheads. When it comes to job Z, look at here. When it comes to job Z, totally 1,125 hours. So 1,125 hours will be paid at the rate of 100, 1,12,500. 1,12,500. Premium. What is the premium? 125. This 100 rupees premium is 75. 25 hours premium is 125. This will be charged to the factory overheads. Look at here. Employee cost chargeable to job that is 1,12,500. Factory overheads is one. So okay, 100 hours into 75, 25 hours into 125, 10,625. I hope you understand this. Okay, next. When it comes to the third instance, what is the third instance? Where overtime is worked at the request of the customer. When it is working at request of customer, that premium amount will be charged to the respective job, that is job Z. That premium amount we are going to add it to the respective job, that is job Z. So look at here. Job Z employee cost 1,125 hours into 100, 1,12,500. Overtime premium added to the respective job. Overtime premium added to respective job, that is totally comes to 1,23,125. This total amount will be accounted to job Z. So by this, we're done with the concept of the normal time and overtime. I hope you are finding some value addition from these videos. If you really feel that you are having some value addition, please subscribe and like the video. If you have any doubt, please mention it in the comment section. Definitely, I'll respond to that. Thank you so much. I'll come up with the next video for the balanced topics on the labor costing. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.